Yo guys, welcome back to a brand new top 5 video. Today we're going to be doing, not a top 5 per se, but we're going to be ranking all the new Tag Team GXs that are coming out in the brand new Sun and Moon set in February. These Tag Team GXs are going to be very interesting, and it's going to be cool to kind of see how they shake up the game. The one thing I really hope they don't do, however, is kind of make like a stall heavy meta, because these things are so like big and, you know, so much HP. They could honestly create a meta where stall decks become a thing, which I really hope doesn't happen, because I really hope that we don't see more stall decks pop up because of these, you know, really beefy cards. But we're going to be ranking them today, starting things off at our number 6 spot. Coming in at our number 6 spot, we have Latias and Latios Tag Team GX. Now, these cards aren't like, they're not terrible per se. They aren't bad. But really what makes them kind of low on the list is they're just kind of lackluster. I think out of all of the Tag Team GXs, these are the ones that will be the most difficult to use, per se. So yeah, you have Buster Purge, which does 240 damage, but for a Water, a 2 Psychics, and a Colorless. Now, this could easily see play with Malamar, no doubt about it. But I think one of the big problems with this card is, 1, it is weak to Fairy. We know that Gardevoir and Ninetales are very popular. 2, you need 2 different type of energies to even attack. So you don't want to be playing Malamar, and you're not going to be playing Water Energy in Malamar. Now, its GX attack isn't terrible. Attach 5 basic energy cards from discard pile to your Pokemon anyway. Like, if this Pokemon has at least 1 more energy attached to it, prevent all effective attacks, including damage on its Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. So overall, not the best Tag Team GX. I think it can definitely see some niche kind of play in Malamar, but it's a Dragon type. It needs 2 different type of energies, which is already a little complicated, but there is some potential for this card. I do think that Buster Purge is powerful. Doing 240 damage is nothing to joke around about. We might see this card see play with Malamar. We'll have to see though. But yeah, that is our number 6 spot. Moving on to our number 5 spot on this list. Next up is Venusaur and Celebi Tag Team GX. Now, this Tag Team GX actually is pretty cool. Now, it has seen play in Japan with a lot of healing cards, like, there's Shaman, stuff like, you know, Max Potion. Now, this is an interesting card. Unfortunately, it doesn't really have the acceleration and support the other tag teams have. It is a grass type. It has Pollen Hazard, which for a grass and a DC does 50. Your opponent's active Pokemon is burned, confused, and poisoned. So technically you can do 80 damage, but overall it's a kind of a lackluster attack. You do have Solar Beam, which does only 150, which with the right cards, I guess, with Choice Band, you hit for 180. Then you have Evergreen GX, which for 2 grass and a DC does 180. Good numbers, heal all damage from this Pokemon if this Pokemon has at least 1 extra grass energy. So you need 5 energies to pull the second effect off. Shuffle all cards from discard pile into your deck. And I think that is kind of the big selling point to this card, is you get to shuffle all the cards in your discard pile straight back in your deck, which is really overpowered in a sense. But unfortunately, it's going to be a little hard to build this guy up. I have seen a list that used Crushing Hammers and healing cards to make it really easy for Venusaur to survive long enough so that you can build up an Evergreen GX and you repeat the process when you shuffle all the cards back. But unfortunately, this card I think is a bit lackluster, though I do think it is an interesting stall type of a strategy, using this card to, you know, you can put pressure on with its first 2 attacks, and then once you build up that big GX attack, you can repeat the process, kind of reset everything. So it definitely does have potential. It has done well. It's something to consider, and I don't think it is the worst. I still think Latios is the worst, though this card is also unfortunately weak to fire. Blacephalon will just have a field day with this card. But overall, I do think this is definitely a playable card, and we'll have to see how it goes in the future. Now we move on to the number 4 spot in this video. In the next spot on this video, we give it to Evie and Snorlax GX. Now, this card actually has some good traits. 1, it is a colorless type, which means you obviously get to use it with a lot of stuff. Vikavolt, Malamar, Blastoise, and Expanded. Obviously, there's a lot of cool combos with this card. It has good acceleration because it's a colorless Pokemon. And it has actually 2 good attacks. It has Dump Truck Press, which does 120 for 4 energies. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, does 240 damage. Now, this is a good attack because you one-shot a lot of Pokemon. You can one-shot Decidueye, Zoroark, Alola Ninetales, Lycanroc, Gardevoir GX, just to name a few. If they're not an evolution Pokemon, you don't get to one-shot them. Now, I think that's what kind of holds this card back, is it's only going to be good in certain situations where the Pokemon has to be an evolution type. Snorlax and Eevee also has a very bad weakness to fighting, which is one of the biggest downfalls to it, is its weakness to fighting. Obviously, stuff like you know, Buzzwole will just eat this card up and get 3 easy prizes, which is, I think, the big thing that's holding it back. Is it is weak to fighting, and fighting is really good right now, especially because we are getting a lot of good new dark types. Fighting is only going to get better and better. You do have Megaton Friends, which is 210 for 4 energies. If this Pokemon has at least 1 extra energy card attached to it, so you need 5 energies to pull this off. Draw cards until you have 10 in your hand. So overall, this card is pretty solid. It's a pretty just solid card. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's amazing. It does have some drawbacks. It has a bad weakness, and its attack is kind of limited to what matchup you play against. There are decks like Blacephalon, which aren't an evolution deck. Obviously, you don't want to be doing 2-4 to do a Ganondorf. It's not that hard to do to KO it. So this card definitely is limited, but I do think it will see play with stuff like Malamar, potentially other energy streamline decks, maybe like, you know, Magnezone, which we'll talk about in a minute. Obviously, Vikavolt. So I do think this card is good. There is some things holding it back, but it definitely is a pretty solid card and has the potential to be very powerful, one-shot a lot of big types and Pokemon. So let me move on to our number 3 spot. Guys, coming in at our number 3 spot, I'm giving this spot to Gengar Mimikyu. Now, there is a reason why this card ain't any higher. Originally, I was like, okay, this card is actually good enough to probably be my number 2 spot. Not number 1, but number 2. However, I've kind of retracted that because I realize this card gets eaten by Zoroark. However, this is still an interesting card. It's got 2 attacks, both of which have some cool things going for them. So we have Poltergeist, pretty standard with Gengar. Poltergeist, pretty cool. 50 damage for 2 Psychics, and your opponent reveals your hand does 50 damage for each trainer card you find there. Now, trainer card is an interesting term over item. This means cards, I think like supporters do actually count with this. I can actually check TCG right now. But I am fairly certain this does work with supporters because they are classified as trainer cards. So yeah, I do think Poltergeist is really good, and there obviously this attack will do like at least 150 to 200 damage every time you use it, assuming their hand size isn't too low. Now, this card is easily countered. Your opponent can quite simply burn cards from their hand. Obviously, this could be comboed with Garbodor because your opponent could be like, oh shoot, they're gonna hit me with a Gengar. I need to play all these items from my hand so that they don't do much damage. But then I'm also gonna be fueling up Garbodor's Trash Launch. So pretty interesting card. Its GX attack is actually kind of a scary attack too. Horror House. Your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during their next turn. If this Pokemon has 1 Psychic Energy on it, more, so you 2 Psychics. Each player draw cards until they have 7 in their hand. Pretty bad attack. The second effect isn't that great. You obviously don't want to give your opponent more cards. But the effect of making your opponent not be able to play any cards is cool. Especially because you can play this on like your first turn. Because there's only 1 energy, you can go second and then drop this attack. Prevent your opponent from really doing much, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I think this card does have potential. It is weak to Dark, and there are a lot of cool Dark types coming out. And we also have Zoroark GX, which is probably not going anywhere. So it is countered pretty easily, but this is a cool card to run in Malamar. It could be played with Garbodor. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting card. And coming in at our number 2 spot, we have given this to Wailord Magikarp DX. Now, this card has 2 ways it's going to see play. Either A, it's going to see play with Blastoise and Quagsire or something, or it'll see play as a new stall deck. And that's kind of my main fear with these these new tag teams. They're so like big that they have potential just to be stall decks, which I don't like. I don't like that at all. Obviously, no one likes playing against stall decks. It's boring. It's pretty annoying, and it's not any fun at all. It's just cheap. So that's kind of my main fear with this card, is it's so, like, tanky. This, honestly, I really think these tag team cards are so good that they had to make a way to balance Acerola. As you know, there is a new Pokemon. I forget what, I think it's a Wobbuffet or something like that. It prevents you, prevents your opponent being able to do Acerola. So that's pretty interesting. So I'm pretty sure that's why they printed this. But this card with Blastoise and, like, Quagsire and Ganondorf is also really strong. There's obviously some other cards, but mainly just, like, Archie's Blastoise just immediately gained a really good new partner. Wailord Magikarp, just a little crazy. Again, it's stall proof. It's very stall proof. There's not that many grass types that even do much to one-shot you. You got 300 HP. Run that with Finding Fury Belt. GG. This card in combination with Blastoise, Superior Energy Retrieval, Max Potion, it's pretty deadly. It also does good numbers. 180 damage for 5 energies. A lot of energy, but 180 is good numbers, obviously. Towering Splash. Is insane too. This Pokemon has at least 7 extra water energy attached to it. Does 100 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you do need 8 energies to do this, but doing 100 damage to all your opponent's bench Pokemon is pretty strong also. Obviously, you're going to be focusing on Super Splash, which not only is it going to be one-shot and stuff, Your opponent will barely even one-shot this card, if at all. They have to, like, have some insane combo with Golisopod, Crossing Cut, Lurantis. So yeah, this card is definitely insane. It's one of the best tag teams, and I do think this is going to be a very impactful one. I don't think it is the best tag team GX, because you probably already know what number 1 is, because we haven't said it yet. But I do think this card is so impactful, it will without a doubt see play either as a stall deck or as a water-type attacker for Quagsire Blastoise. Insanely cool card, insanely scary card because of how just ridiculous this card is. But now we move on to our number 1 spot. And moving on to our number 1 spot, I have given this to Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. Now the reason this is going to be number 1 is because this card works with a lot of cool lightning types. You got Electric, you got Zeraora, and you have Magnezone. And that is really good. This card also does some good things. So you got Full Blitz, which does 150, search your deck for up to 3 light energy cards tested with your Pokemon. That's a really cool effect. You can actually chain this with multiple Pikachu Zekrom, combo this with Ace Rolla, or like AZ or something, or Super Scoop Up. You have a pretty good combo. 150 is fine enough. You're not going to, but you got to remember, we have Electro Power. I almost forgot. We have Electro Power. But yeah, Electro Power, Choice Band, you will one-shot stuff. And you can do this kind of like combination with Pikachu and Zekrom, where if it doesn't get one-shotted, you can just keep chaining them because of that effect. Then we have Tag Bolt GX, which is 200 damage. If this Pokemon has at least 300 G, so you have to have 6 lightnings on it. This attack is 170 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So yeah, you get to just take like an insane amount of prizes there. I'm pretty sure that, you know, you can do 200 the active and then 170 to a bench Pokemon too. I hope that's the case. But yeah, that's also very good. You can knock out a Tapu Lele and knock out their active and take 4 prizes if that is the ruling. If not, then whatever. I mean, that GX deck is kind of what makes this card number 1 anyways. Not only that, it won in Japan. It has a lot of support with Magnezone, Zeraoras, Electric, Max Elixirs. Just a really insanely cool card. It's cheap attacks, 3 energies isn't that much. You gotta consider Thunder Mountain, Electro Powers. This is definitely going to see play. Again, we have a lot of good fighting types that will balance this card out. But I do think Zekrom Pikachu is going to make a pretty big impact on the game regardless of how good fighting types are. So yeah, that'll wrap today's video. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Do you agree with this ranking? Now, we do have some other tag teams that I think have been announced. I think we have a Greninja tag team, which doesn't count because I don't think it's come out in the new set. We have a few other tag teams. There have been some that have been like announced, but they haven't been revealed. But there are more tag teams that are coming out, and we'll probably be doing this as a tradition because I'm pretty sure tag teams will kind of be a new mechanic that they add in new sets, similar to like Prism Stars. So we're probably going to see more tag teams in the future sets. So we're probably going to be doing more of these ranking videos. Do you agree with this ranking? What do you think is the best tag team coming out in this new set? Which one are you most hyped for? Which one do you want to get the most? And I'll wrap today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Help me on the road to hitting 4,000 subscribers if you're not subscribed to the channel already. Drop a like if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in another PCGO video, and bye.